Okay, well, hi everybody, nice to see you all here. I want to just start with a small piece of housekeeping. We'd like to invite you to join us in a conversation on Twitter this evening. So if you want to do that, you can do that to the hashtag #MakingThingsLast. As Mark said, I'm going to talk very, very briefly about the circular economy. And just the circular economy is moving us away from the linear model that we have today, where we make a product, we use that product, and then we dispose of it. And it's transitioning us to a place where we can maximise the use of the materials and the resources by reusing them or by recycling them. It's helping us to extend the life of products by either repairing them and extending the life, or by giving them additional lifetimes by remanufacturing them. It also changes our approach to the design and business models. So from a design perspective, and we'll hear a lot more about that later, but from a design perspective, when you're designing a product for the circular economy, you need to make the right choices. So choices that are not going to hinder the ability to reuse or remanufacture that product, but actually enable it to be done more effectively and more cost effectively. And from a business model perspective, it really opens up alternative business models like hiring, leasing, servicing. I'm sure most people in the room have either hired a car, leased a car, but what if you could lease the bike for your children? I mean, they outgrow their bikes pretty quickly, so once they outgrow their bike, you give it back and you get another one. So an interesting model to enable those bikes to be used more like 100% of the time, rather than being thrown in your shed once they're outgrown. And you know, if you were able to buy a service for your washing machine rather than owning it, would you just pay for the number of cycles that you use rather than owning your machine? So there's a lot of very interesting models that can be introduced by circular economy. When you think about manufacturing, that's actually pretty fundamental and important to a well-run and well-functioning circular economy. The business case for applying circular models to the manufacturing sector is being recognised globally, and it's estimated that around as little as 10% of the materials and resources used during the manufacturing phase of a product actually end up in that product. So there's a significant amount of waste during manufacturing and a significant amount of waste when we're throwing the products away. Interestingly, you'll see an increase in manufacturers generating new revenue streams by adopting models like repair and reuse and remanufacturing, because they reduce the costs in the business, they enable greater margins in the business, and they're effectively extending the value and maximising the value of their product. And you see that the manufacturers that are actually making that transition are more resilient, they're seeing more profitability, and they're opening up new markets than they currently have in their existing business model. A couple of interesting points on the slide there at the bottom is that Ellen MacArthur Foundation found that action across 8 manufacturing subsectors could result in annual cost savings of between £0.8 billion and £1.5 billion. And that equates to approximately 5 to 9% of the total turnover in those subsectors. So one of the goals was to ensure that the future for manufacturing, remanufacturing, circular economy in Scotland is there with the skills that are required. And one of the action plans that came out of 2 key policies that are in place, one being the Manufacturing Action Plan, known as MAP, the other being the Making Things Last strategy. Those 2 policy strategies are the key things that guide the work that Zero Waste Scotland does. And from the MAP, there was identified that we should create a masterclass series, the goal being to create a set of lectures and masterclasses that would help to upskill and capacity build the remanufacturing centre in Scotland, and enable them to be ready to benefit from the circular economy. Another area of focus in remanufacturing in Scotland is the Scottish Institute for Remanufacture. We're actually funded by Zero Waste Scotland and the Scottish Funding Council because it's supported and was put in place by the Scottish Government. The goal for SIR, because it's a bit of a mouthful to say Scottish Institute for Remanufacture all the time, was to enable collaborative projects between industry and academics by enabling the support that would enable them to fix some of the issues, the challenges that industry faced in trying to implement some of these methods. To date, we've funded 33 projects for in the region of £700,000, and there's been about 20 key companies that have been involved in those 33 projects. The series of lectures, of which this is the ultimate one, was identified as being a very good forum to bring leading examples across the world of companies who are already adopting circular methods in their business. They have circularity in their operations today, and hear from them the benefits that they're seeing by doing that. We've had 4 lectures so far. The 5th one is tonight, and tonight we're going to hear about the design for a circular economy. As a follow-on to the series of lectures, there's also going to be a series of more in-depth masterclasses. These will also be delivered by leading circular manufacturing practitioners. They'll follow the same themes as the lectures have, and anyone who's interested in attending these, you can look out for information on the Zero Waste website, or you can also register interest to be informed when these are going to happen. The other thing we want to highlight today is the Circular Economy Hotspot Scotland. This is actually something that's going to occur later in the year. It's around October, November, I believe. Yeah. And it's the 3rd of such event in Europe. It started 2 years ago with a Circular Hotspot event in Amsterdam. Last year it was held in Luxembourg, and then this year in Scotland. And it's an event that basically showcases what is going on in that particular region in terms of best practice and great examples of circular economy businesses. There will typically be lots of great events and the ability to tour around some of the leading examples of circular economy businesses in the country. So if you're interested in attending that, you can also sign up with Zero Waste Scotland. So the last thing I want to do is to introduce Tapani. I've got a very nice description here. Hopefully I get all your name and everything correct. So tonight's speaker is Tapani Jokinen, a design consultant, entrepreneur and chief design officer at Circular Devices. Tapani is a strategic and eco-design professional with over 20 years extensive design experience, building brands, products and user experiences, fostering creativity, accelerating and driving cross-functional innovation, exploring new business opportunities and guiding business strategies. Tapani was the initial designer for the Nokia 3310 and the Nokia 1100, which are to date the most sold and loved mobile phones in the world. His solid background in design strategy and advanced design creation gives him a unique insight into managing complex business paired with design thinking. He has unique skills to apply theory into practice, using efficient tools and methods that fuse innovation, life cycle thinking, and ethical business to drive positive impact and sustainability-led innovation, guided by the triple bottom line. Circular Devices are passionate about making the world of hardware sustainable without compromising on quality or profitability. Based in Finland, the company brings experience in hardware, design, business development and project management to build sustainable, upgradable and repairable devices for a circular economy. Circular Devices are developing the modular puzzle phone, a smartphone and puzzle IoT, which are designed around circular economy business model principles, including durability, modularity, repairability, optimised logistics change, and return manufacturing. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tapani to the stage.
Thank you, Jacqueline. The topic today, circular economy, enabling how to design and specify for circular economy. In original agenda, there were durability, repair, and also the 3D printing, but I have actually put upgradability on there, and I will tell later on in my presentation why upgradability is one of the key issue actually for making sustainable electronics. So let's start from the basic. So every design begins with the story, and the essence of design is actually storytelling. Today's brands, today's products, it's not anymore companies to tell their story about and advertising and that what they have thinking. It's more about their customers, their peers, their community, what they tell about your services, your products, your brand. So, and the other issue also here is that I would say that everything is designed. Everything that you are surrounded that are man-made, everything is designed. But only few things are really designed well. And usually people just think when we talk about design, just certain high-end iconic objects. But it's so much more, and hopefully my presentation help you to see a little bit more about it. So my story, these are the projects that I have, projects and products that I have been involved. I was almost 20 years in Nokia and Microsoft. And there is a nice story and actually why I'm standing here, why I'm telling my story to you. So it was 2007, I get invited to Oslo, Norway, to give a speak. And I was really excited. We have many success stories telling about 3310 that we have sold already 125 million and this and that, and I was really excited. And so only things was that the next lady who stepped on the stage was Anna Galloway, and she have just made a field trip to India, China. And she started her presentation on image of beautiful mountain and a landscape. I was, yeah, cool. The next image was zoom in, and it was actually the mounting of discard mobile phones, junk that we were shipping from Western world into the India and other places. And I could recognize many of those products that I have been involved. So, that was really tipping point, eye-opening moment for me. That understanding that, yeah, great success means even greater responsibility. So, especially as a designer, what you are doing and how you are doing things. The next thing why I'm here also, I'm working on eco-design circle project. Especially the Learning Factory with Fraunhofer Institute. It's a European Union initiated project for Baltic Sea region, Interreg project where all the design centers in Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Poland, Berlin are involved on this. And what we try to do in there is really find the new tools, new methods and practices, how to step into the eco-design. And we made a large survey on for whom it should be and what are the gaps and so on. And one of the findings that we got was that actually the awareness and the know-how, knowledge in the companies are really good. The biggest problem is actually what are the practical tools, how to start eco-design, how to make circular design, how I could transform this knowledge into my company and in our products. So I will speak, first part of my speak will be more about on those tools and methods, and then I will go on puzzle phone and showing how we have made it. Okay, what and how the eco-design, the strategic view. This is in a nutshell that we put. Eco-design is changed to promote ecological innovation. Eco-designing a product or service means to make it desirable for people, minimize its environmental impact, and maximize its use and business impact along life cycle by designing the circular system around it. Yeah, sounds simple, but it's not so easy to achieve. And especially I want to emphasize word desirable for people, because this was the beginning when I start the project, and I'm a designer, visual person, so I started collecting material from Google images and others, putting eco-design, putting a circular design, all the keywords. And this was actually, where's the laser? This was what I got out of there. A little bit, you know, gray and dusty and that kind of. And for me, eco-design and sustainability have always been more on this side. So, and do you always have to emphasize also so strongly about sustainability and recycling and those kind of things? And this is more upcycling and doing, you know, I think that the eco-design sustainable products should be actually more functional, better made, and actually for long lasting. So actually making better products out of it. In here is the ideas, design thinking. So it's about people, business, and technology. And usually they also have here that innovation is here. But anyway, you have to, making a successful product, you have to satisfy all of this. But I believe strongly that future thinking and the future design is circular, so it's much larger. So taking the social responsibility and environmental impact account in here when you are doing the things. Then we have people, planet, business. So this is just the basics that you have to understand the need of the people. You have to do also more, you know, products that you could drop certain features, certain things out, because you are really focused, you know what they want, and you could create the product based on that. And then the planet, the impact, environmental impact, and how to achieve that. And of course, I don't believe that there are any companies in this world who would jump in a circular economy or sustainable products and that if they don't make profit. So also how to make profit, but in the ethical side. This slide should be pretty familiar if we have any CEOs or the management team members here in the audience. So how we based our decision making when somebody is coming with the new ideas and things. So it's always about desirability. So do people need that? Is there really true need behind that? Feasibility is more about in the technical side. What is the maturity of technology? What is the cost of it? Do we have resources? Do we have know-how? So everything that you have in your company, and are we able to do it, and do it make sense? And then the viability, more business side. So how will this will affect on our brand, our profit, our strategy, our portfolio, and so on. But this was in the past. Nowadays there have to be also this horizontal arrow, environmental impact, and that should relate with all the verticals that I have in there. And really simple slides. It's really hard to make this kind of slides, but strategies toward sustainability, and it sounds so simple, but it's so hard to achieve. So sufficiency, less is more, efficiency, make it better, consistency, make it different. So there is a formula to do it, but hard to achieve. Then I think that you are aware about those circular economy 4 loops. So as larger the circle is, as less money is there. And we could see that actually on a life cycle in use, you should keep the product as long as possible, valuable, beneficial for the owner, because all the materials, all the resources are already used in there. And also, as smaller the circle is also more profitable. So no large logistic chains, no long transportation and all that. It really makes sense. And a good sample in here is also that every time when my friends are in a situation that they want to change their phone, or they have to change their phone, or a new laptop, and Pasu phone is not out there, they come and ask that, what do you think that what is the best option at the moment in the market? I think that for me, answer is really easy. It's actually, I always say the same, that it's actually the phone that you have in your pocket now. It's actually the laptop that you have now, because all the resources and energy is already used there. But how to repair that, or how to upgrade that? And same thing also happens with the cars. If you think about it, that okay, we know that old cars are not good, polluting, not so efficient, using lots of gasoline and all that. But why there is no company who are actually offering aftermarket kits with today's technology to change your old car to run smoothly and nicely again? I mean, there is not those kind of things. So how we keep product valuable, how we extend the life cycle. Here is one tool, one canvas that we have working, domino effect canvas. So it just helps you to think when you create your products, because in early stage you should already give answers on this question. So longer use, how you maintain, how you repair. Do you create the product that actually is possible to repair, or is it even necessary? Is it possible to upgrade, and so on? And the second question is, what is happening after the first use, especially in the consumer electronics side? So could you resell that, redistribute, reuse the second use area? What is happening then after use, extended function and those kind of things? Remanufacturing, remade, reassembly, and what is happening in the end of the life, and what kind of system you actually build around it. This is how we're closing the loops, and basically when you look at on here all the life life stages and cycles of that: materials, manufacturing, product, marketing, distribution, use, and end of life. That is pretty much logical, linear type of thinking, how we manufacture our stuff nowadays, pretty much. So it's really about how you keep it, and especially in here, in use, how to extend the lifetime of your product. Making more for less, and this eco wheel basically shows that if you start to think about life cycles, and if you optimize each one of those, it's pretty sure that you are creating better products, and also more attractive products for the customers. And this shows really well also that today's way how we are working doesn't work so well, that actually you could see that the only way to achieve this, you have to work with others, multifunctional, cross-functional, working with other departments and solve the problems together. So here is the typical design process, the double diamond process, and also what we have looking in here is really how we integrate the design thinking, discover, define, that you understand the problem and you are solving right problems. So you should be sure that you are designing the right things, and then you jump in the development, ideation, and delivery side, that designing things right in there. One thing that I would say that, and still it is, that I think that there is a huge misuse of creativity today, especially designers. We are the worst ones, because usually the companies and everybody use design to make actually life cycles and lifespans shorter, and bring all the time new products and new cool stuff in there. And I think that the big challenge is really that how the great design, how we solve those problems and not creating those, how we could reduce the waste. And it's our responsibility to look at also those areas. And by the way, when I talk about designers and design, I don't mean only designers who have the background in product design and all that. It's everyone who are working in a product development and creating new stuff for people. So I would say that eco-design means significant shift from product design to system design. And these are basically the stairs that how in history, when we look at the back, how the companies start to have an in-house design in there. Later on, there were a next step, design management, and how to manage the brand and things that every student were studying. Design thinking, and it's still the big thing, but I think that we have to up our game a lot, getting in the system level, that you really have to take care of every detail and design that from beginning with others. How many of you are familiar on this building, TWA terminal in FC Kennedy Airport, New York? Yeah, super cool. Eero Saarinen. But actually the biggest learning what Eero Saarinen, his father, also famous architect, was teaching to him was that always design a thing by considering in its next larger context. So if somebody comes to you and asks, please could you design a chair, you should ask first, so what kind of space will it be? This kind of big auditorium type of hall, or where it goes? And then, of course, you start to think about the house, where the room is, and environment, where it is, and the city plan, and so on. And if we are taking our approach, you should actually start with the question. You should ask, do people need that chair? Or is that actually something else that they are actually looking at? So that is design thinking, that you really have to understand the motivation and reason before just jumping there and start to ideate and create new stuff in there. So the message is pretty much that we can design our way out of linear system into the circular systems. This is interesting. This shows the decrease of maturity on companies when they are in transition into the circular system. Happens pretty much like this many times, but every company have their own journey, own way, how fast they could do it, and so on. But usually, as bigger the company is, as harder is getting in there. But usually, here you could see that, yeah, if you have money and you have the big corporation, usually they hire a consultant to help them to get in this area. Consultant start to work with a certain department inside the company, design or product development or whatever area, and then they start to actually apply those principles in there. But it's really a long way before it's really way of working, way of thinking inside the company. And I would like to say that it's actually sustainability, that the whole idea of this have to be embedded totally in a brand level, not only in a strategy. It has to be part of the brand. It's something that all the workers in a company knows their mission and they are part of it. Then you could succeed in here. And this, what I was saying about big organization and smaller, but most of the companies are built like this in here. So you have the management system, and then you have department, but they always work in the silos. And it's really hard to achieve that type of group thinking, group solving atmosphere in a company. So what I'm saying here, design is the team sport, and eco-design require very holistic, collaborative way of working to manage to do it. The other slide that I have in here, everybody always tell about that, how important it is to be creative, innovative, thinking out of the box. Yeah, it is important, but I think that even more important for circular economy sustainability side is actually start to think about what to do with the box, because you are all in that box. In your organization, in your areas where you are always. So how to apply those findings, those ideas, and bring those alive in a context where you are. Okay, then I will show the short film about the puzzle fog. So on this film you saw the first wooden models that we create and how we split it in 3 parts, and later on I will try to explain why it's the optimal split to create the modular smartphone. And then we create, we call that our Frankenstein model. So we hacked well-known phone and create own connectors in there and split it on the 3. That's how we do. And then also the appearance models, how it will look when we are doing that. But okay, as I start my presentation, every great design starts with the story. So this is our story. 2013, our CEO, Alejandro Santacreu, had a broken iPhone on him, and it was a home key in his phone. And he went to the Apple dealer and asking, could you fix it? Could you help me on this? And they refused to fix it and said that no, it's not possible. We don't have those kind of parts. And all of us knows that that home key, the cost of that part is few cents, actually. And not so big deal, actually, even to change. But they were not available that. So he was forced to buy a new one, a typical story. So he started to think about it, that no, there have to be other way and a better way. And that is actually the reason why we are working on Puzzlephone, the modular sustainable platform. There are 5.6 billion adults in the world, and in few years they all going to have some kind of smartphone. And when you think about that, the lifespan of the phones, this is a little bit old, 2013, it was 18 months only what you keep your smartphone. The latest research that I have seen, some of those are showing 20 months, some of those 24. But anyway, the tendency is that people are keeping their phones longer time. But still, 2 years, hey, come on. And if there are 5.6 billion people, and we are using huge amount of raw materials, enormous amount of resources and all that, I think that this planet will not stand. So we need new thinking, we need different type of products to offer sustainable choices into the market. So I would say that sustainability is definitely the world's greatest design challenge and innovation challenge. There are no planet B, unfortunately. Maybe the Mars will help us somehow, hopefully. Here's our mission. So it's really bringing the sustainable manufacturing electronics in Europe and bring circular economy thinking in the mobile set markets. And bringing those kind of choices also for customers that they could select what kind of phone they're going to have in the future. The other things that really driving us is we believe that where we make the wealthiness and growth should also stay in there. So Puzzlephone is fully designed, engineered, manufactured, assembled in Finland. This means basically that if North America or India is interested on Puzzlephone, it's totally okay, but not that we start to ship our phones from here. We would rather build the whole system and the ecosystem in that country, having a Puzzlephone India, having a Canada, and so on. So changing a way we create our products. And I would say that good design doesn't date. So just like Alvar Aalto chairs and those, I mean, still modern, still cool, works forever. And there are ways to design also objects that stays nice and cool. Selecting materials really carefully that are aging gracefully, where patina that actually scratches and everything what happens to your phone is actually designed on beginning, that is part of the experience. It's just like a good leather bag. I mean, when it's a little bit used, it's actually much cooler than it was original, or jacket and so on. And here is our modularity thinking. So we have 3 parts. And why 3 parts? So number 1 on there, this is the brain. And in the brain we have put most of the electronics in there, all the key electronics, chipset, memories, cameras, actually the most of transmitters, transceivers, those kind of that makes it be a phone, basically. Then the second part is the spine, and that we have kept as naked as possible, only actually having the connectors and the display. Because what is most obvious things, what is happening to you and all of us? You drop your phone and you break your display. I have a long discussion with our CEO and argue about that. My point of view was that this docking station, the spine, should have most obvious components that makes it as a phone, like loudspeakers, microphone, maybe antenna, maybe this. And he was totally disagreed on that. And a long discussion. And I'm super happy that he won and I was totally wrong, because now it started to really work. Because the part that I was meant to design was much more expensive, much more complicated actually. And our system is also that when you break it, you have 2 options basically. You could send it back to our factory and you will get a new one, or repaired one back, or you could have the new one, and we will actually resell it again. So they will stay in a market. And of course, as we all know, the battery, the heart, super important that is changeable, because they tend to run out for a few years use. And also, what is your need actually? How much you talk per day? What is the stand time of your phone and so on? So really important. There we have also extra space for additional function. So we could customize tailored this phone for different use, having different sensors, different kind of things, and you will see those things later on. And why 3 parts? The biggest problem today in a mobile smartphones is not really the hardware actually. I mean, today's technology, today's way of manufacturing, they are really reliable. I would say that most of the time when we are maybe forced and we are changing our phones, as you know, it's usually still functioning, it's still working. It's actually the software obsolescence that forces us to do it many times. So suddenly you are in a situation, your phone is totally fine with you, the processor power is enough, it works, but you can't anymore update the latest OS in there. And suddenly you can't use your most favorite software with that anymore. And suddenly you are in a situation that you have to go and buy the new one. and it doesn't make sense. So in our case, you don't have to draw the whole thing in a drawer. It's only the brain model that you could change. And what to do with the brain model later on, you will see also that. So how we design that. And already on beginning, I was showing that extending the lifetime and how we keep it valuable for end user. That is really where we have put huge amount of effort. And other thing is also super important is the personalization. We people tend to board what we have, you know. I have had this already 5 years, you know, and it's the same old. So the personalization is also really important. Just like in the past 3310, when you had the changeable covers, you could always have a shiny, a new feel, look, colors, materials, all that in there. And then also putting effort on maintenance, repairability, that we use screws, you get in, you could change, you could upgrade certain models in there, and then reuse. And super important also disassembly, that actually you have to design an object, a product on starting point also, how to tear that down, how you take valuable raw materials out, different components, and how to recycling those. So all that have to happen already in a design stage on early stage. So it's really designed for disassembly and reassembly. Then about modularity and what are the main differences with today's phones, what we have. So here you could see a good samples of breaking the monolith. As I said, in a hard part, the battery part allowed you to have a different kind of functionalities. Okay. There are already few phones in the market, modular phones, and they all claim that we are sustainable and this is better for nature. But I disagree, and really heavily actually, that if you actually buy today's modular phone and then they have the extra boom speaker, they have a better camera, they have this and that. And what if the next phone what customer will buy is not the same brand, the same thing? Suddenly you actually have much more stuff to put or waste is created. So actually this kind of monoblock, today's normal phone, might be even more sustainable choice for you, because in the end you have it. Only that, but in this case when you have bought huge amount of add-on type of thing on it, you gain more. Our current strategy is focusing at the moment more and more on making the puzzle IoT happen. So actually we start with the brain model and adding the batteries and certain sensors in there, and you could create the Android-based IoT system out of it. Here is some concepts that we have played with. So the camera, also we were studying with ESA, the European Space Agency. Could we actually do the satellite phone out of it? And it looked really promising, actually you could. So just changing the brain model and you get the full satellite phone out of it. Also we have working on Jolla, the sailfish. So this phone could be Android, could be whatever phone on OS side when you just change the module. And of course, we designers always dream about flying objects and flying phones. So you just change the spine and you get the full drone, because we have all the cameras, all the sensors. It's not so complicated, actually have also that. Okay, then extending the use. So how we have designed the models, especially the brain model, that actually its product itself is a standalone product. So when you upgrade your phone and get the new brain, there are still use for your old one. So like in here, repurchasing the brain model, and you could have an action camera. So next morning when you go on with your bicycle to work, you just attach that in a helmet. Or it could be a digital doorbell automatically. You have all the functions in there. Or your life stage change, and you get a baby. Again, baby monitor. So, or burglar alarm, and so on. So you could build different type of functionalities out of it. And this is really cool also. So if you have 10 years old car, the entertainment system in your car starts to be pretty crappy, but you have the old brain model, so you just attach that with the adapter in your car and you get the full Android system in your car. This is basically our business model. So we are really focusing now to build a reference product, then making later on upgrades and repairs, custom products, and then this is open platform, open source, so everybody could join and build their devices, so also having a license thing. And you could see here that I'm talking about puzzle phone and showing the phone, but it's not really the phone. You could see that it could be a tablet, it could be a robot, it could be a car, connected car, it could be so many other things also. So we want to change how electronics are designed, manufactured, and consumed. And this slide shows really well that modularity has so many things. First, the consumer-manufacturer relationship, that if you call today the giants and say that I have an idea, could you do this type of phone? Might be a little bit difficult, but in a modular it's much smaller things. Open ecosystem, development time is 5 times faster than starting in the scratch, because you only make small modification in each models. So that brings the flexibility in there. And of course, how to make business really. I mean, if we're looking today's products, this Roger curve always happens. So the tipping point is here. It takes a little bit time, word of mouth advertising, and you start to see more and more that product. And then suddenly people start to wait on that brand, a new product, and then again. That is what is happening. So with modularity, it allows us to create these smaller waves all the time. And of course, we are also forced to make change. The puzzle phone 2.0, maybe in 7 years' time, or so on. But anyway, this allowed us to have a sustainable business also around it. And then, just quickly, we won 2016 Green Electronics Council Catalyst Award, where was big players, so we were really proud of that. And also this year we were selected on Nordic Launch Innovation Challenge Acceleration Program. So that is where we are. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name's John, Enniscafield Projects Journeys in Design, looking at where design meets well-being and sustainability. Thank you very much for that presentation. I like that you told us a story, and design begins with a story. Yours was interesting. A rubbish tip was your tipping point. I like the notion of modularity, but I would challenge you that ultimately it's rather boring. As long as you have architects and designers, they'll produce another chair. Lean Rose produce a beautiful modular sofa that can be a chair, a sofa, a bed, a table, but ultimately they don't sell very well because people want something individual. What's your response to that?
Fully agree. You have to be careful where you use modularity. And modularity doesn't have to be so visible all the time. I mean, everything is modular today. If you look at the cars, the platform, how they build, that is actually flexible. The one platform is actually, they produce maybe 6, 7 modules out of it, and nobody see that. But it is actually fully modular, and it's built inside. Modularity is still in consumer electronics. I think that there is the huge benefit. Of course, there is a downside. It's not a solution for everything, and a good example is that if your driver is miniaturizing an object with modular, you can never do that. But it's the same thing also, that is that really the driver to create a smartphone that is 4 millimeters thin, that you can't get even good grip on it and things like that, or is the longevity the driver? It really depends. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody else got any burning questions?
I'll just make another comment on modularity there. So I worked in Hewlett Packard for 25 years, and I know IBM does the same. Their servers and our servers are designed to be modular so that they're upgradable, just like Annie was talking about, because you were wanting to change out your CPUs, you were wanting to upgrade your disks, you were wanting to upgrade your memory. So they were designed for N+1, N+2 lifetimes up front, so that there was that ability. And people like IBM use that to build a service model on top of. So a company will buy a particular service level agreement of how much CPU, how much disk size, how much networking capacity you want, and they really don't care what's running underneath that. And then IBM own that equipment, the company is paying for the service, and then therefore it behooves the manufacturer to get as much life out of that product as possible, and therefore they really do want to design it to be modular and upgradable. So it does happen in some businesses.
I guess there's a big difference between your kind of workhorse B2B type products and your consumer sort of lifestyle products, where the way it looks and feels, the style of it, is really important. But I guess this is where you've designed this phone to both have the functionality, the modularity, but also to be stylish and attractive to the consumer.
Exactly. And it's a platform to offer personalization, which is super important. Giving a different material options, giving that you could build your own, because that is also not supported today's phones.
Yeah. Any other questions from the floor?
Hi there, great talks. Thanks very much. I was just wondering what you think the major barriers to sustainable product innovators are for getting their products to market and actually achieving wide adoption. So you're obviously going through the design phase of your product yourself at the moment. What are the main challenges you're facing to getting it out into the market and getting customers to buy it at the end of the day?
If I answer from our experience and in getting the puzzle phone into the market, I think that the biggest thing is the money, get the founding. Hardware, making hardware is the hardest thing in this world, and especially in Europe. We don't have too much anymore manufacturing, we don't have too much support actually on that kind of things, but that have to change also. So founding, getting support, it's pretty expensive to bring a new brand, a new smartphone in a market. And then it have to be, again, if we are talking other businesses, as I said, sustainability is not a sticker, circular economy, cradle to cradle stamp. It goes really deep, and it have to be in a brand level. Otherwise, it's really hard to achieve.
So have you found it's hard to bring investors in to back the product?
No, not yet. So actually, where we are focusing at the moment is patenting the most essential part. So the interface, the connectors. So try to keep our R&D budget as small as possible before we get enough to launch it.
Okay, thank you. I just wonder as well, actually, is remanufacturing part of the plan? So take back of the phones and reuse of components and all those things in the next generation or whatever. Is that part of the plan?
Definitely. And one of the dreams that I have, and we are not yet there, is that actually when you design the assembly lines, also a factory, if the factory is able to assemble a really complicated electronic products, why they can't reverse the line? So the same phone comes back and taking part of it. So and also I give you already example was if you broke your display, for example, we could take it back, and we will. So those are really essential part of it. The other thing is also there, if you use your creativity to take back programs and all kind of things. I think that most of the products today should have that the sales package is designed well and designed that there is other use that you want to actually keep it, not throwing away, and there should be actually ready-made, ready-paid post stamp and the factory address. So you just drop your product in there and send it back. I mean, it's not so complicated.
Any more questions?
Hi there, yes. I was really interested in the comment you made about distribution and Industry 4.0 in the sense that you might design it, but you design it in Finland, someone buys it in Tokyo, and was the implication that you would make it local to the purchase point so that you wouldn't have the distribution of the product?
Yeah, that is really in the ethos of the company that, as I said, if Asia would be one of the core markets, we would rather build that in Asia. We would rather build that in North America and so on. And it's totally possible to do it. And fast, actually. If you succeed in here in Europe and you have a know-how how to build it, it shouldn't be too complicated.
I'd just like to give the example involved in a open table, and the designs are made in London. The designer works in London, and there's an off-the-shelf series of beautiful tables that you can buy. And if you buy at Los Angeles, he has a network of makers around the world. So local to Los Angeles, he's trained up some craftspeople using local resources to make that table locally. That's really what I was thinking about.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. That is the way we should to keep the logistic and logistic chains as shared as possible.
Okay.
Hi, Tapani. Thanks. That was a fantastic talk. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, in the Scandic region, are the public sector taking notice of what you're doing? I know that Zero Waste Scotland has done a lot of work on public procurement and what our public services, such as our health service, could be doing on single-use devices that could be made more modular for return for take back. In the Scandic region, or the Nordic region, are they interested in what you're doing in the public sector?
Public sector is really active, especially in Sweden and in Finland. The Sitra, the Finnish Innovation Founding, they work a lot. We had national roadmaps, we have this and that, but especially you actually say that how government, how cities are purchasing things, what kind of values they should follow. I think that is really the key. Also in a long term, in European Union level, I don't believe punishments, making legislations and those kind of things. It should be more motivation. So if we could, for example, rate of for example, smartphones, what if we could rate the environmental impact and sustainability, that you get certain scores, and then the custom taxes and things will be better. Who would it follow, honestly?
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion around Europe at the moment about modulated fees for producer responsibility under WE, and companies like a while ago we did work with Vodafone and O2, Telefonica around scoring the phones on a sustainability basis. Interestingly, the markets vary a lot. Some consumers are much more green-minded than others, so it's interesting the way it potentially drives the market. I had a question actually about, from a consumer perspective, if you're a consumer on a phone contract and every 18 months or whatever you're able to upgrade your phone, it's really quite easy to get the next new thing. Horribly too easy. Yeah.
It's horrible concept. Absolutely. Every year actually they have that yearly based deal that every year you get a new phone.
So my question is, I suppose, how do you kind of counter that? And your phone obviously is kind of exciting in that you can, as you say, personalize it and switch out different components and so on. But how do you counter that kind of that commercial machine that is driving that consumption on such a regular basis?
Yeah, it's really good question, because I have thinking that a lot actually, and I think that the puzzle phone would be a perfect option for operators, dealers, because they could create that deal, but they only every year they send something that you all the time refresh, facelifting, making the product better and more durable and so on, rather than change the whole phone. Modularity is more flexible to do those kind of things.
So from the network operator's viewpoint, they can make more money out of it because they could still charge us the same amount for the contract, but it's easier for them to turn the phone into the next best, the next new thing.
Yeah, it's almost like and it is. You are renting actually.
Exactly. It actually is a rental or lease model, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Which we always say is a good thing from a circular economy point of view, but in some cases, it's only a good thing if the product comes back, and instead of that, with phones, they end up in people's drawers and never get recovered, in the system.
But the lifespan of 1 year, on those contracts doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy. Yeah. Other questions? Sorry, it's a one here.
Hi, it's Andy Simpson. I've got a company called 3D Solutions. It's actually not really a question, it's just an observation in your slides, and really stood out to me was one of your slides was casting the shadow. And through your message there, it was very focused on the design. In your cast the shadow, you said 70% is design, 20% is material, 5% labour, and 5% overheads. My observation is when folk go in to look at carrying out this, do they not automatically go straight to the smaller percentages? When they're looking for to start an environmental program or a circular economy, the first thing companies go to are the labour and then the overheads. So I think your message there tonight is great. Is getting that message out to companies is that they're potentially looking in the wrong areas. They're going to need to go take that one step back and going right to the design. So I think your message is very beneficial.
Yeah, thank you. And a good example is also that, okay, if you really put effort, almost product to product, you could actually create a product that lasts 10 years or even more. But then I would ask also that, do it make any sense on business point of view to sell that, honestly? So all those sharing, leasing, renting, those kind of things make so much more sense. And that have happened already. I mean, Luxper, what is this Philips?
Paperlux.
Yeah, for example, that it's really motivate them to create better light sources that will last a long time because it's better business for them.
And they retain the ownership of the physical assets.
Yeah. Or the washing machine, that if washing machine could work 20 years, what is the price of that? You know?
It's a Miele washing machine, I think. It costs about £1,000. So
advertising.
Well, sorry.
In my mum's days, it was a hot point. Her machine lasted for 20 years.
Yeah,
but not any longer.
Not any longer. Yeah.
Any more questions?
I think what's interesting, sorry Lynn, I think what's interesting about people moving to a circular model, like Philips are a big company, they can afford to do that. But we've been working with Isla Bikes. I mentioned leasing your children's bike. Isla Bikes down in England are coming up with a model where they will be leasing those bikes, where today they sell them. And if you talk to Isla, one of the big challenges they have is that cash flow hole that they're going to have when they stop getting the revenue back that covered the cost of manufacturing that bike, because that is now amortised over a much longer period. They have a big revenue hole that they have to consider and get over. So for a business that currently does the normal linear model, trying to look to move to a circular model, there are some challenges that need to be carefully looked at.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Just talking about those challenges, I was thinking about the business model. Mark, just thinking about Professor Backer when she was here talking about merely washing machines. And it wasn't about selling the washing machines, it was about selling the service of the washing machine. So you're designing for a more robust product that is not just going to last 20 years, but it's going to last multiple customers because you're selling bundles of the service of that washing machine rather than just even leasing the washing machine. And I think getting to that point where as designers we're designing really beautifully robust products with multiple users so that you're really thinking about the business model, everything in the circle.
Yeah, and I think increasingly, you look at people talk now about generation rent. People, the millennials who are less likely to own property and so on, and therefore are going to be moving around, more mobile. It doesn't really make sense, perhaps, to own products the same way as previous generations have, and so the rental models start to become, much more widely used, and the ownership is retained by the supplier, and therefore they potentially take more care over the durability and repairability and so on of the product. So you can see those models are becoming more more viable. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we could see already huge amount of evidences on we are moving on that, especially if you are living in you have an apartment in a certain community area. So actually those industrial machines are much better than typical home machines. So if that property have the good machine, that you have to clean your clothes only once a week because it's so huge and effective and easy. Second is also that more and more cars that those communities have share cards, few cars, so why they all own? Because it makes sense. 3D printers, you know, even a printer. Why we have a printer by ourselves in our home? Just like if you go to the office and every table would have their own printer. Doesn't make sense.
No, absolutely no. The amount that they get used and utilization of the product, so many power tools and things like that, they're only used a few hours a year.
Yeah.
It's crazy for everybody to own a circular saw or whatever DIY tools you might have in the shed. So the sharing economy, it's kind of a really important part of this, but then that has knock-on consequences for design, doesn't it? Because if it's going to be shared and used much more heavily, then it's got to be a very durable, easily repaired sort of product. And so it all feeds back into the design. The business model and the utilization patterns of the product all have to be reflected in the original design.
Yeah, I agree. And other things that is, I think that the key for that is actually that people don't want to move on their comfort zone. That it needs more effort you to clean your clothes. It needs more effort to do this and that. So how to bring those so close and convenient and easy. Same thing also with electronic cars, hybrid cars, and all the others. I mean, I remember when my colleagues in the car industry, when they draw the first electronic cars, you remember that they usually were those small kiosks with 4 wheels, city cars, nice ones. And some of them managed to get even to the market, but nobody bought those. They couldn't do. Because the problem was that already investment to make that, putting the new technology, new assets, new batteries, all that. So the price of that small city car was the same than a luxury family sedan or bigger car. So why you do that? And I was living in LA on those days, and I was really surprised, delight how it actually happened on first hybrid that you really saw in LA on the street that finally managed to do it. And it was something that nobody really expected. It was the biggest monster. It was SUV, Lexus SUV. They put the electronic engine in there, and then they have V6. Normal Lexus had maybe 200 horsepower, but this have 300. And by the way, it's eco-marked, and it changed your image also more friendly for environment and so on. And also those people who really care about their images and all that is they have money. So it was just the perfect match. It was not the city car. It was actually totally opposite. But a good sample, just that you really have to rethink and creatively look at that where is actually the right market area and segment and audience for your innovation.
Yeah, that's right. There's no single solution that encompasses every market segment. It's kind of really horses for courses in terms of all of that. I think there's an interesting point as well about going back to what was said earlier about public procurement, and what was interesting about the hybrid cars in the US was in San Francisco, for example, they mandated that taxis should be hybrid vehicles to reduce emissions in San Francisco, and that started to increase interest in those vehicles and people's understanding and awareness of the benefits. So again, the procurement can really help drive, I think, demand for some of these things.
Absolutely, and one of the last things Obama did was introduce a procurement policy in federal government that I think it was about 50% of all federal vehicles had to be remanufactured.
Yeah.
So it can drive behaviour significantly if you put the right thing in place.
Just looking at the time. We've still got time, I think, for a couple more questions, if anybody's checking at the back.
Thank you. Neil Urquhart. The conversation we were just having there, how much of, I suppose, the human perception, human acceptance of circular economy, greener living, etc. Some societies it's higher on the agenda, some societies it's a long way from being put on the bottom of the agenda. How do you see it, the human perception change? What's going to shift the average consumer's mindset? Fair to say the room here is a group of converts, we're sold. But the average consumer, how are they going to shift so that they would be willing to buy, say, your phone or a car that could be taken apart and bits added on, rather than the current mindset of what's new, what's trendy? What's going to shift the consumer's mind? Because to my mind, without shifting the consumer, nothing else will go with it unless you mandate it heavily. And then is it carrot, is it stick? Which end is it to create a change?
Yeah, really good question. I think that those products have to be cooler, better, much better products than their competitors. And not just riding with the eco stamp on it, you know. They really have to be better. You have to design the product in a way that it understands for whom it goes and what are the real needs and making it cooler, sexier, more desirable and all that. I think that it's, when I saw the images about the eco design, you know, that is in all our mind, you know, but how to make those better.
I think we're a very rarefied world if you think people are going to, at the point of purchase, choose something that isn't cheaper. And you haven't mentioned that. Okay, but you know, the big consumer market is going to still look for something that's value for money. That's number one.
Always, yeah.
Value for money new, not value for money if it's got a re in front of it, right? Because there's still that consumer perception that if you're refurbished, remanufactured, you're lower quality than something new.
But I think
that's another part of it. Yeah.
It's just what Neil said. We've got to shift consumer thinking that we are prepared to pay a little bit more for something that lasts a lot longer. That's really fundamental.
Yeah. Also where you are focusing, I mean, early adopters, style leaders and others that it may be, I mean, if immediately when you on starting point is that you are focusing on mass market, it's really hard in any product, on any kind of things. But if you start more, like Tesla was starting more in a niche area, and now they are bringing cars that are for everyone, you know. But now people really want to have it, you know. They have built the brand and desirability really well, that it's something that they really, you know, wanted to have, the whole image. So
I think there's another point as well that increasingly, as we were saying earlier, I think people aren't buying things outright. You know, they are on rental agreements. So, you know, if you look at what's happening in the car world, you know, the vast majority of cars now are on PCP finance deals. And people don't look at things in the same way as perhaps my generation did in terms of affordability. You know, now it's not about, can I afford a £20,000 car, let's say. It's about, can I afford the monthly payments? And they don't look at things in terms of the overall cost. And that's actually, you know, in the automotive world, a lot of the profit is actually in the finance deals, not in the, you know, selling of vehicles per se. And I think you'll see that model, and again, it already happens obviously with the phone deals. If you're on a contract rather than buying the phone outright, it's about affordability for an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8 or whatever. So I think those models are shifting, and that in a way is an opportunity, because it's not about buying, you know, a £500, £600 phone. It's a different philosophy which allows that longer term relationship and development of that customer supplier relationship to grow.
And kids, they don't want to have any more driving licenses in Sweden and Finland. I'm pretty sure that it's pretty much the same in here, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it's already a big change. Right. In the car industry also, when we are jumping in the electronic cars. So there's no need for spare parts. There are no need for maintenance, similar than today's. There is almost half amount of parts and modules in the electronic cars than today's cars and things. So we are talking enormous changes. And when we take the robotic, the autonomous things and this and that, so disruption that we will all see will be enormous.
It's interesting, isn't it? That's in a way the way that Tesla has been able to
Also,
enter the market,
yeah.
and other manufacturers, the German car manufacturers that rely on very high quality engineering in mechanical engineering terms, have to a degree lost some of the advantages as we shift into a different phase of vehicle types. Right, we are kind of overrunning a little bit, so maybe take one last question if anybody else has anything. No? Otherwise, I guess we'll just say thanks again to Jackie and to Pani, and feel free to join us outside for drinks afterwards. Thanks very much.